Hello everyone, welcome to BODHI. My name's Alex Nashton and this is my demonstrator, Chris Yates. He has a broken thumb today, so he's not going to be doing everything that I say. So you can use him as like a general guideline of what we should be doing, but know that he's not going to be doing everything that we'll be doing today. We're going to be moving through a 60-minute restore and rebuild practice. So you're going to want to have 2 pillows or optionally 2 bolsters if you have bolsters at home, a blanket, and then 2 blocks. Now if you don't have blocks, it's totally fine. You use whatever you've got handy. At some points in the practice, you might be able to just use a rolled up blanket. At other points, it might be better if you have either some old shoe boxes or some really thick textbooks nearby. What are you doing, Chris? On that note, we'll begin the yoga practice now. So come to sit any way that feels good. I usually sit like this in supported virasana, primarily so I can show off my really cool pants. But you're more than welcome to just cross your ankles in front of you. If you're taking supported virasana, you'd have the block between your ankles and the tops of your feet down on the ground. Knees come into touch, and then you sit back on the space between your heels. And then from that seat, we'll begin with a pranayama technique tonight. Pranayama is another way of saying breath technique or breath exercise. This one is not a very popular practice, I think primarily because it looks so freaking weird. So you're gonna take right hand underneath left armpit and left hand underneath right armpit. And then you're just gonna let the weight of your upper body hang down on your hands. So the weight of your upper arms hang down on your hands. Your thumbs are still exposed, thumbs are still pointing up. And then you let the weight of your shoulders hang heavy here. And close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, just try to spread a little more space across the front of your chest. Lift up through the back of your skull. Let your chin come in ever so slightly towards your throat. And become more aware of how you're breathing in and how you're breathing out. Each inhale and each exhale. And as you keep your awareness suspended here, you might notice one side a little more open, a little more dominant than the other. One side that seems to have a greater affinity for breath at this particular moment in time. And if perhaps you're a little stuffy today or your nose is a little runny, that might manifest as one side of your nostril, one nostril being completely blocked off. But know that as you keep your awareness focused here, that there's a very intricate, interconnected process happening beyond the level of your conscious awareness that allows the breath to come more fully into balance, which in turn allows the brain hemispheres to come into balance. So if at this moment in time you're not feeling any difference in your breath than when you first started this technique, you're not feeling more balance, or you're still feeling the same side dominant, you're gonna take the forearm that's on bottom and thread it back over top. And then your hand is gonna make its way underneath your armpit, and you'll let the weight of your arms hang down on your hands. Now, if you have a broken thumb, you'll be extra mindful of where your thumb has landed in space. We use this technique called Padadirsasana because underneath each armpit, between the top 2 ribs on each side, there is a small bundle of nerves that when we apply a little bit of pressure into, causes the nostrils to dilate. When the nostrils simultaneously dilate, it increases the flow of oxygen evenly to both of our brain hemispheres, allowing them to temporarily come into balance. So we'll hold our attention here for just a little bit longer and quiet. Try to refrain from making any excessive noises as you breathe out. Relax the muscles of your face. And then you can go ahead and release your hands down, let your chin come into your chest. Blink open your eyes and slide yourself forward onto all fours. So slide yourself onto hands and knees. So for today's practice, we're gonna really work into the hips and the hip flexors. These poses are not necessarily comfortable. They weren't designed to be comfortable. They were designed to be confronting. So know that if you're feeling the impulse to run away and get out of the shape to escape it, you're probably doing it right. So you can go ahead and take your right foot forward between your hands. And then you'll curl your left toes under, lift your left knee up for a moment, and slide the ball of your left foot a little further back behind you so you're lengthening out your stance. And now left knee comes down again and you'll untuck your toes. Now if there's already any tenderness or any sensitivity in your left knee, you might want to slide a pillow, a bolster, or a blanket underneath that left knee for a little extra cushioning. And now because this is a yin practice, and because we're working more with the joint space of the body rather than the muscles, you're gonna allow your right knee to bend deeply, as much as it possibly can. And that might mean that your knee surpasses your ankle, and that's totally fine here. With that, you have some options for where your arms and where your hands land. You can either keep your fingertips on the ground beside you. Chris isn't gonna do that because again, he has a broken thumb. Or you can optionally take your hands up onto your right thigh using the pressure of the palms of your hands down on your right thigh to elevate your chest. If you're choosing to elevate your chest today, and actually even if your chest is lower because your fingertips are on the ground, I want you to think about finding a little bit of a back bend in the uppermost part of your back. So your sternum reaches up towards the sky, your shoulders draw down your back away from your ears. You widen the space between your collarbones, and then you'll close your eyes, so keep bending into your right knee. And now with that bend, with your eyes closed, think about using your right foot to drag the front of the mat back. Think about using the top of your left foot to drag the back of the mat forward. So you have this opposition of your feet and your legs squeezing in towards each other, squaring off the hips. From that squareness in your hips, you let the weight of your body dip down into your pelvis just a little bit more. And you'll probably find a little more stretch, a little more opening around the front of the left thigh, the left hip flexor. Nice. So we'll stay here for a few more breaths. Let the muscles of your face be soft. Not like that. Okay, so from here, you can go ahead and release your fingertips down to the ground if they weren't there already. And now you'll start to shimmy the sole of your right foot just a little further out in front of you. So you're walking and inching the right foot forward, forward, forward. Forward. Good, and then you can stop about there. So there is still at least a little bit of a bend in your right knee. The sole of your right foot is flat on the ground. So right foot is flat down. There's still a bend in your right knee, but you let your pelvis sink forward and down. Now you can either keep your fingertips on the ground or you can optionally take the palms of your hands up onto blocks. Blocks are really helpful here because we do want to focus on finding an arch in the uppermost part of the back. So you guys are not gonna do what Chris is doing right now. You're not gonna let your upper back round. Instead, you're gonna focus on lifting your sternum forward and up, drawing your shoulders away from your ears. Good, let your jaw unlock. Make some space between your top and bottom teeth. And now focus on what sensation exactly you're feeling in your pelvis, you're feeling in your hips. And think about pressing the pinky toenail of your left foot of your back foot down. And notice how that sets the internal rotation of your back leg. We want to make sure that we have that rotation so we can make space along the back left side of the pelvis. And now with it, look down at your front foot, look down at your right foot, and make sure it's not turning out to the right slightly. But that if you could draw an imaginary line from the space between your second and third toe to the center of your heel, you could parallel that line with the side edge of your mat. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. We'll take a few more breaths here. Shoulders pull back, chest lifts up. You're still breathing. Nice. So from here, you'll slowly start to shimmy your right foot back in space. Bringing it closer and closer and closer to your hips. Pause there, and then walk your right foot over towards the left side of the mat. And let your right knee drop down. So in this position, we're coming into a pigeon pose, or what is known in the yin practice as swan, or sleeping swan. We want to make sure here that before we come down, we come up onto our fingertips or take our hands onto blocks. And then you're going to walk your fingertips forward or your blocks forward in a big V shape. Now, very similar to Chris, if there is some space between your right side butt and the ground, between your right hip and the ground, you might want to use your blanket or a pillow or bolster to cushion it. Good. And then staying either up onto your fingertips or with your hands on blocks, again, I want you to fight your fight to find that arch in the uppermost part of your back. With that arch, you'll start to walk your hands over to the right slightly. So right hand can step over to the right even more. Almost like you could turn your chest to frame your right side knee. Yeah, good, but keep your shoulders drawing down your back away from your ears. Your heart's moving forward and up like a little back bend here. Yeah, nice. And then rather than jutting your chin forward, can you take your chin and ever so slightly towards your throat? And focus on sending the top of your left thigh down, revolving your inner left thigh up towards the sky. Make sure you're still breathing here. And that you really focus on sending your breath more into your left side lung and your left side rib cage. Your chest moves forward and up. Shoulders are drawing down the back away from your ears. One more inhale. And then with your exhale, you'll walk your hands forward again and then take it over to the left side. And notice just how different it feels in this shape, in this position. So again, you're keeping your arms either in that V shape, hands on the ground, or fingertips up on blocks, and fighting your fight to find an arch in the uppermost part of your back. Now this one's a little tricky for Chris because he broke his thumb, so he can't do everything that you're gonna do. Make sure you're still breathing, that there's space across the front of your chest. And I know you might be feeling something in your hips right now. You might be feeling quite a bit of sensation, and that's very much normal, but try to stay with it. Try to keep breathing. Steady breaths in and steady breaths out. From here, you'll walk your hands back to center, and now you'll begin to release your chest forward and down. You can either rest your chest flat on the ground, or if it doesn't quite reach, you're gonna take a block underneath your chest and a block underneath your forehead. The idea behind this is that when we give ourselves scaffolding, when we give ourselves something to lean into, it enables the upper body to relax a little bit more. So make sure you're still breathing. That you haven't stopped because you're uncomfortable. That you haven't stopped because your thumb hurts. And we're going to stay here for a little while. If any of you are experiencing some tenderness or sensitivity in your right knee, or you're feeling this more in your right knee than you are in your hip, then I'm gonna give you a slightly different variation. One where you'll roll over onto your back and cross your right ankle over your left thigh, making a figure 4 shape with your legs, at which point you can interlace your fingers behind your left thigh and draw that thigh in close towards your chest. Good. So we'll take one more breath in here. One more breath out. Take the palms of your hands down to the ground and slowly start to walk yourself back up. Once you're up, you'll tuck your left toes under, lift your left knee up, and then step your right foot back to meet your left foot in a downward facing dog. So lifting your hips up and back behind you, our first downward facing dog of the practice. We'll use it just as a very transitional downward facing dog. So you'll immediately go ahead and drop your knees back down. And then you'll slide your left knee forward so it's just outside of your left wrist. Oh, sorry, I almost skipped quite a few poses. Step your left foot forward between your hands. Yes, exactly. And then you'll start by tucking your right toes under. Lift your right knee up. And then slide the ball of your right foot a little further back behind you. Go ahead and drop your knee down again and untuck your toes. Good. And now you can either keep your fingertips on the ground or you take the palms of your hands up onto your left thigh and push your chest up. Whatever position you've landed in, whether your hands are on your thighs or your fingertips are on the ground, again, we're working to find opening and space in the uppermost part of the back, right? So many of us spend all day crunched over and curled down, but I'm asking that you do the opposite here, that you use this practice as a way to neutralize your body, to wipe the physical slate clean. So your chest is still lifting up, your shoulders are drawing down your back away from your ears, and rather than jutting your chin up towards the ceiling, you're keeping it in ever so slightly towards your throat. So there's balance between the front and back planes of your neck. It's almost like you're trying to give yourself a double chin here. Continue to deepen into the bend of your left knee. Make sure that you are still breathing. And now from here, you can go ahead and release your hands down. And you'll start to shimmy the sole of your left foot a little further out in front of you. So the left foot inches forward and inches forward and inches forward. Until you go just about as far as you can while still keeping some sort of bend in your left knee, while still keeping the sole of your left foot on the ground. And now look at your left foot and once again draw an imaginary line from the space between your second and third toe to the center of your heel. Parallel that line with the side edge of your mat. So for some of you that might mean turning your heel out a bit more. For some of you it might mean turning your heel in to help you find your own anatomical neutral. And now you'll press the pinky toenail of your right foot of your back foot down onto the floor. Try to revolve your inner right thigh up towards the ceiling and fight your fight here to find opening and space in the uppermost part of your back. So collarbones slide further away from each other. Your chest lifts forward and up. Your shoulders move away from your ears. Chin in towards your throat. Let your hips drop forward and down. We'll take a few more breaths here. And so now you'll begin to shimmy your left foot back in a little bit closer and a little bit closer. Good. And then you'll start to shimmy your left foot over towards the right side of the mat, so it's coming across the mat. As it crosses, you'll drop your left knee down. You slide your right knee further back behind you, and if there's some space between your hips and the ground, you use either a bolster, a pillow, or a rolled up blanket to cushion yourself. And then you'll either keep your fingertips on the ground in front of you, or you're gonna take them up onto blocks. Either way, you'll make a big V shape with your arms and with your hands. And now with that V shape, you'll walk your fingertips a little further forward, the whole time fighting your fight to maintain a little arch in your upper back. So Chris, you can walk your hands forward a little bit more. Good. And then with that distance between your two hands, you'll start to walk your fingertips over towards the left. And as you do, focus on sending the top of your right thigh down towards the ground, revolving your inner right thigh upward. Still working for the arch in the upper back, but sending a little more breath into your right side lung and your right side rib cage. Make sure that you are breathing here. Very nice. So from here, we'll take it over to the right side. Finding a little more space along the left side waist. Sending the left sitting bone, the left butt cheek down towards the ground. It has a tendency to lift up here. Keep it anchored down. Again, collarbones are spreading wide. You're still breathing. So from here, you can bring your arms forward. And now either with or without your blocks, you'll begin to lay yourself forward and down. So I do recommend that you let your forehead rest on something, whether that's the ground or whether that is a block. Just because when we give ourselves something to lean into, when we give ourselves scaffolding or support, it enables the upper body to relax. And so our movement patterns are very intricately interconnected with our thought patterns. The tension that we hold in our bodies are inherently emotional experiences. So as you stay in this pose, as you feel your left hip stretching and opening, the front of the right hip too, you'll notice what emotions become most immediately available to you, where your thoughts are, where your attention is. You'll notice what exactly you're thinking about here. And know that these mental, emotional experiences are not here to be psychoanalyzed. They're not here to be dissected, but they're here to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be felt, and then released. So try not to stay with them for too long. If you find yourself letting out a little sob like Chris is, that's very normal. Grieving the loss of mobility in his left thumb for the time being. We'll spend just a little bit longer in this shape. Begin to deepen your breath. Press down through the palms of your hands and slowly start to walk yourself back up again. You'll tuck your right toes under here, lift your right knee up, and then you'll slide the ball of your left foot back to meet your right foot. Step yourself into a downward facing dog. You'll take a breath in this dog, and a breath out. Slowly release your knees down to the ground. You can either keep them inner hip distance apart, or you can bring your knees in all the way to touch. You'll also bring your big toes in to touch the tops of your feet on the ground now, and you'll draw your hips back in the direction of your heels for a child's pose. And know that the hips might not necessarily make it to the heels, and that's totally fine. If it's uncomfortable for you to let the hips just kind of float there in space, you can slide a rolled up blanket or a pillow between your knees and your calves, and know that that option is also really nice if there is any tenderness in your knees, if you're feeling it there more than a stretch in your lower back. Your arms either stretch out in front of you, or you can optionally let your arms wrap around you, the backs of your hands on the floor beside you, your palms facing up towards the sky. And we'll give you some time here. And as you stay, you'll notice the expanse, the space and opening along the lower back. You give yourself permission just to be here, an observation of it. And to feel the things that you're feeling without any control or manipulation of them. From here, you'll slowly ease yourself up onto all fours again. You'll walk your hands out a little further in front of your shoulders and then shift your shoulders forward. Bend your elbows straight back and lower all the way down onto your belly. So all the way down. Good. Once you're down on your belly, we're going to take a few back bends just in the theme of today's practice, working to find space across the front of the chest. So you'll start first by bringing your arms out into that big V shape in front of you again, the palms of your hands face down on the ground. Start to wake up and activate your legs, so press down through the tops of your feet. Engage your thighs so your kneecaps lift up, but try to unclench your butt. So you let go of any gripping in the butt cheeks. Belly button squeezes in towards your spine. And now you'll begin to press down through the palms of your hands. As you do, work to lengthen your tailbone back towards your heels. And begin to walk your hands in a little bit closer and a little bit closer towards your body as you do, lifting your chest up. Good, and so you'll control the intensity of this back bend here. If you need to up the level of intensity, you walk your hands in closer. If you need to decrease it, you take it further away. If you are feeling this at all in the lowest part of your back, you're gonna wanna ease out of it a little bit. Whenever we talk about back bending, what we're really looking for is mobility in the uppermost part of the spine. So still think about lengthening your tailbone back towards your heels. Pubic bone presses down. Your belly button squeezes in, and you scoop your chest forward and up. The elbows stay raised. Collarbones wide, shoulders down your back. Make sure that you are breathing. And then one vertebra at a time, you'll release yourself back down, at which point you can take one hand underneath the other hand underneath your forehead. Give yourself a little wiggle in your hips. Let your tailbone wag from side to side like an imaginary tail. And then come into stillness. And notice what's shifted. Notice what's changed in your body. The extra bit of space you have to breathe into. And we're going to take 2 more cobra poses just like that. So one more time, the arms come out to that big V shape. The tops of your feet press down. Kneecaps lift up as the thighs engaged. Unclench your butt muscles so you don't become a tight ass. Pubic bone presses down, tailbone lengthens back, belly button squeezes in, and then you apply pressure down through the palms of your hands to lift your chest up. Beautiful. Collarbones spread wide, shoulders away from your ears. Chin comes in ever so slightly towards your throat, and you're still breathing. So make sure that as you lift yourself up, as you adjust the level of intensity based on what you're needing today, that the right side chest and the left side chest are balanced and even. So right now I can see that Chris's left shoulder is higher than his right, and we really want to do our best to even them out here. So Chris, focus on pulling left shoulder down. Perfect. Take another breath in here. And then exhale, release yourself down. One more time, you stack one hand on top of the other hand underneath your forehead. You give yourself a little wag in your imaginary tail from side to side. And then eventually you come into stillness, noting what's shifted, noting everything that's changed. And take a big breath in here. A long breath out. One more inhale. And exhale. One more time, you bring your arms out to a big V shape. And we'll make this the deepest back bend of the class. So if you want to work on walking your hands in even closer this time than you have the last 2 times, you should be ready to do that. But again, note that if there is any sensitivity in the lower back, if you're feeling it more in the lower back than anywhere else, you need to ease out of it a little bit. So wake up your legs, engage your thighs, engage your feet just like you did before, engage your core, and then pressing down through your hands, you begin to ease yourself up. You fight your fight to carve that arch in the upper part of your back. Good. And if you want to work on back bending a little bit deeper this time, maybe you bring your hands in closer towards your body than you were before. Good. Nice. So Chris, you can spread your collarbones apart even more. Really nice. We'll take just a few more breaths here. Try to stay with it. And then slowly release yourself down. Dramatically release yourself down as Chris is demonstrating. And then you'll flip yourself over onto your back like a pancake. From here, you're gonna take your feet out about as wide as your mat is, but note that if you really aggressively flipped your body pancake over, your mat might not be perfectly aligned anymore. It might be a little crooked. You'll reach your arms up overhead, and then you'll grab onto your right wrist with your left hand. And you'll draw yourself up and over to the left, so lengthening out your entire right side waist. As you do, you'll let your right cheek fall towards your right tricep. And you'll notice what your armpit smells like here. It might be a little different than how it smells on the next side. And then you'll cross your left ankle over your right ankle. So you have a little bind at your legs. Or pardon me, I think I switched sides. So right ankle over the left ankle. Yeah, there you go. Chris is still really aggressively smelling his armpit over here at Yoga Salt. Bet you guys didn't think we'd be doing this tonight. We'll take a few more breaths here, focusing more on the right side lung, focusing more on the right side rib cage. And then you'll slowly start to ease yourself out of it. So uncrossing your ankles, bringing your feet back to their own respective edges of the mat. And then this time you're gonna grab left wrist with your right hand. Don't touch me with your feet, please. Nasty man. And then you'll draw your left wrist up and over towards the right. And you'll cross your left ankle over your right ankle. You'll turn your left cheek towards your left tricep, and you'll give your left armpit a good sniff. And notice if it's different than the other side. Usually it is. I hope you guys are enjoying this class as much as we are. We're having a lot of fun over here. On this side, you focus on breathing more into the left lung, expanding the left rib cage, filling the left side chest, the left side belly. Make sure you're still breathing. So from here, you can go ahead and uncross your ankles, bring your upper body back to center, and then gather your knees into your chest, give them a squeeze just to neutralize your spine, just to relax it. And now we're gonna move into Shavasana. It's going to be a very brief Shavasana before we finish off the practice in meditation. So we're gonna end the practice seated today. But for now, for Shavasana, you'll just lengthen your legs out in front of you. Let your feet fall away from each other. Let your knees fall away from each other. You can either bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your chest, or you can optionally let the palms of your hands face up beside you. If there is any tenderness in your lower back, you're gonna wanna slide a pillow or a bolster underneath your knees, just because it enables the lower back to relax. Likewise, if this is uncomfortable for your head, if you find your chin kind of jutting up towards the sky here, you might want to elevate the back of your skull just a tiny bit more. If you're feeling a little chilly, you might wrap a blanket around yourself, but know that we won't be here for too long. You'll let the weight of your eyelids hang heavy over your eyes. Unlock your jaw, make space between your top and bottom teeth. And allow the roof of your mouth to float up the same way it does when you fall asleep at night. We'll take some time just to rest in the wake of that practice, to feel the ripple effects that move through the body, that move through the nervous system, the expanse, the release. Keep your awareness in that same very easeful place that it's in right now. And before we wake the body up again, set the intention that every movement that you take be very specific and intentional. That none of it is too quick or too jarring for the nervous system, but that each step you take to get yourself up is a very conscious choice that allows you to stay in this easeful mental place. So with that in mind, you can begin to wake up your fingers and your toes, but keep your eyes closed. Keep your awareness focused more inside. And with that, you'll slowly start to gather your knees into your chest. Very slowly, again, very intentionally, let yourself release over onto your right side. Good. And then pressing down through one hand at a time, letting your head stay heavy, let your eyes stay closed. You'll press yourself all the way up to sit. In that seated position, trying to keep your eyes closed as you transition to it, you'll sit yourself up either on a rolled up blanket, on a pillow, a bolster, or a block. Let your ankles either cross in front of you or let one shin rest in front of the other. Let your hands relax on your thighs. Eyes are closed. Our meditation today will focus on mantra as well as visualization. We use visualization in meditative practices because imagination allows us to transcend the logical, rational, analytical thinking mind and helps us step into a state of deeper connection to the reality of this moment as it exists, of presence and focus. We utilize mantra because in Sanskrit, mantra comes from two root words, manas meaning mind, and tra meaning liberation. So mantras are quite literally tools we use to liberate the mind, to free the mind. They do that through sound resonance because we know that very similar to a gong or a Tibetan singing bowl, that when sound reverberates through the space around us, it creates a very physical impact on our bodies and on our nervous systems. Similarly, when we create sounds inside of ourselves, there is a reverberance, a reverberation, and a resonance that changes the physicality of the body. When we silently and internally think mantras to ourselves, our brain doesn't quite know the difference between what we think, what goes across the screen of the mind, and what is actually happening in the body. And so a very similar effect will happen when we silently internally think mantras as to when we actually say them out loud. So in this quiet place, in this focused and easeful place, as you breathe in, you'll silently and internally think to yourself the mantra, hum, H-A-M, hum. And as you exhale, you'll silently and internally think to yourself the mantra, sa, S-A, sa. You inhale and think hum. Exhale, sa. Hum. Sa. hum, sa. You'll continue with it on your own. And if the Sanskrit, if the stuff that I was saying before feels a little too mystical, a little too woo-woo for you, if nothing else, then using a mantra will disrupt the normal patterning and neural pathways that you usually have going on within your thoughts. And so you use this as a way to disrupt normal cycles of thinking. And as you start to feel more comfortable with the mantra, you can optionally weave in the visualization as well, by first envisioning a golden ball of light at the base of your spine. As you inhale and think to yourself, hum, you draw that light up through the center of the spine to the center of your head. As you exhale and think sa, the light releases back down again to the base of the spine. You inhale and think hum, drawing the light up from tailbone to midbrain. You exhale and think sa, allowing the light to move back down again. And keep going with it. Inhaling hum, light moves up. Exhale sa, light moves back down again. Hum, sa, hum. The sound of transformation. Sa, the sound of pure consciousness. Stay with it. If you find your mind kind of drifting away from you, don't judge yourself for it. Don't beat yourself up. Just come back to the mantra, to the visualization whenever you remember. We'll be here for just a little bit longer in quiet. Slowly release your chin down to your chest. Let the back of your neck lengthen. Bring the palms of your hands together at heart center and set the intention that you'll do your best to weave this level of consciousness into the rest of your day, into the rest of your week. Namaste.